Radio, chemichemi ya mawasiliano, sauti inayotuleta pamoja, ikijivunia zaidi ya stesheni 15 za radio. KBC hakika ndiyo sauti ya Kenya, sauti inayopasua anga kwa mamlaka makuu, sauti inayotuleta pamoja. Katika sikukuu ya redio ulimwenguni, tunasherehekea urithi wetu, sauti za magwiji walioteka mawimbi kwa ubora usokifani, na pia sauti za chipukizi wanaodumisha mwengo wa utangazaji bora. Jiunge nasi, tujivunie mafanikio ya redio. Jiunge nasi, tusherehekee uwezo wa redio katika kutufahamisha, kutuburudisha na kututia shime ya kuja pamoja na kupambana na hali ya mabadiliko ya tabia nchi. KBC ni yetu.
Please can I have that and that? Oh, thank you. Yeah.
Ukiwin, beshte yako in your local shop win too. Hii ni the Cadbury Big Win-Win. Nunua any 2 participating Cadbury products. Scan QR code ama WhatsApp hi kunominate beshte yako in your local shop. Stand a chance ya kushinda share yako in cash prizes plus more. A win for you is a win for all. T's and C's apply.
Moment of reckoning. Will it be Kenya, Madagascar, or Djibouti? Who will be the next chairperson of the African Union Commission? Good evening and thank you very much for joining us. This is the Prime Edition with me, O'Brien Kimani. We are live from our national headquarters here in KBC. And of course, in the next 1.5 hours, we have a lineup of breaking news and of course, interviews that you cannot afford to miss. We have more, and of course, remember to interact with us through our social media channels. I'll be unveiling them to you very shortly. But for now, let's have a look at the highlights.
You pay a monthly fine of 51,249,000, equal to 2 times the benefits, and in default, then you serve 7 years imprisonment.
Condemned to jail. Former Kembu Governor Ferdinand Waitito sentenced to 12 years in jail with the option of paying 53 million shillings in fine. President Ruto lands in Ethiopia to cast his vote for Raila Odinga as high-level geopolitics emerge ahead of the Saturday AUC chairperson election.
1 out of 3 students, or maybe 1 out of 4 students, are actually using one drug or the other.
Drugs top brains. Report singles out lecturers as leading catalysts of drugs and substance abuse among university students.
I have received around 40 notifications. For clarity, these members will be traveling in their private capacities as citizens and leaders, and therefore will be self-sponsored.
And who is the sponsor? National Assembly Speaker dismisses claims Parliament has sponsored 100 MPs to Addis Ababa. Many thanks indeed for joining us. This is the Prime Edition. You can always get in touch with us at KBC Channel 1 is our X account. And of course at YouTube, you're also live at KBC Channel 1. Well, former Kiambu Governor Ferdinand Waititu has been sentenced to 12 years behind bars on the option of paying a fine of 53.4 million shillings after being found guilty in a 588 million shillings graft case. The anti-corruption court has further barred the former Kiambu boss and his 3 co-accused from holding any public office for the next 10 years. Ruth Wambui with the details of the second former governor to be convicted of graft after Samburu Governor Moses Leonard Kulal.
Delivering the sentence on Thursday, Chief Magistrate Thomas Nzioki ordered Ferdinand Waititu to pay 54 million shillings, failure to which he will be jailed.
I am very specific. Of a second, you pay a mandatory fine of 51,249,000, equal to 2 times the benefits, and in default, then you serve 7 years imprisonment.
Waititu suffered another setback after the court ruled he cannot vie for public office. His wife Susan Wangare has been ordered to pay 1 million shillings or be jailed for 1 year.
Section 64 states, a person who is convicted of corruption or economic crime shall be disqualified from being elected or appointed as a public officer for 10 years after the conviction. So that stands.
The trial magistrate further handed the director of Testimony Enterprises Company, Charles Chege, a mandatory fine of 295 million shillings. Lucas Wahinya, the road engineer implicated in the tender scandal, was fined 21 million shillings.
Pay a mandatory fine in the sum of 20 million. In default, you serve 5 years imprisonment.
After the sentencing, Waititu, through his lawyer John Swaka, prayed to be escorted to the hospital, but the magistrate directed the issue be handled by the prison authorities.
Upon the prison authorities taking over in a few minutes, and that will be in line with what the prosecution agreed. We'll be seeking.
Your Honor, the court can only make an order of exhibits it is seized of. You cannot make an order for a document that was not exhibited before court.
Waititu has however vowed to appeal the verdict at the High Court. The tender in question was for upgrading various roads in Kiambu County during the financial year 2017-2018. The wages of sin versus the wheels of justice were delicately balanced on Thursday, with Babayao and co-convicts being sent to jail in their $500 million graft case. Ruth Wambui reporting for Prime Edition from Milimani's Anti-Corruption Court.
From the corridors of justice to the hallways of Addis Ababa, where President William Ruto is in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, for the African Union Summit and African Union Commission chairperson elections scheduled for Saturday. The President joins Prime Cabinet Secretary and Foreign Affairs and Diaspora Affairs Cabinet Secretary Musalia Mudavadi to intensify Raila Odinga's bid for chairmanship of the African Union Commission.
President William Ruto's jet touched down in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia on Thursday afternoon ahead of the elections of the African Union Commission chairmanship on Saturday. The president and the Kenya's candidate for the continent's top job, Raila Odinga, expected to make the most out of the 2 remaining days. Odinga's last foreign trip for his bid was in Burundi on Wednesday, where he met President Evariste Ndayishimiye before heading to Addis Ababa. The president's arrival in Ethiopia was preceded by a session of the Executive Council of the Foreign Affairs Ministers, attended by Prime Cabinet Secretary and Foreign and Diaspora Affairs Cabinet Secretary Musalia Mudavadi. Mudavadi used the platform to intensify campaign for Raila.
He has campaigned very extensively on the African continent. President Ruto has given him all the support. He has gotten all the support and encouragement from the President of Kenya, I have played my role as Minister for Foreign Affairs as well. Our ambassadors have played their role, including the ambassador here, and we believe we have canvassed effectively to give victory to Raila Odinga.
Raila will be up against Djibouti's Mahmoud Ali Yusuf and Richard Randria Mandrato of Madagascar. Giverson Maina, Prime Edition.
Of course, remember we have our team in Addis Ababa tracking all the happenings, and of course once we have the link we shall cross over to Addis for more updates. University lecturers have been singled out as a leading catalyst to the increasing cases of drugs and substance abuse among university students across the country. New data released on Thursday by the National Authority for the Campaign Against Alcohol and Drug Abuse further reveals that nearly half of university students have used at least one drug or substance in their lifetime, with alcohol, cigarettes and shisha topping the list.
A report dubbed Status of Drugs and Substance Abuse Among University Students in Kenya 2024 confirms that at least 26.6% of students have engaged in drugs and substance abuse in the past 30 days.
If we look at the ability, the people who are using at least one drug, either you are smoking, you are using cannabis, you are using heroin, whatever, we find that 26.6% are doing that. This is nearly 30%, a third. 1 out of 3 students, or maybe 1 out of 4 students, are actually using one drug or the other.
Data from the report released by NACADA Director for Research, Standards and Licensing, John Muteti, on Thursday highlights the widespread use of alcohol, with 87.3% of students admitting to have consumed alcohol, followed by cigarettes at 64.4% and shisha at 41.2%. Other substances commonly used are cannabis and cocaine, while there is an increase in the use of muguka and miraa by students. The survey conducted in 17 universities involving 15,000 students also singled out peer pressure as the main source of substance and drug abuse, while lecturers, canteens and social media also featured prominently.
I think I was a little surprised because these are the people that we as managers of the university are entrusting to our students. And so I already wrote a few interventions that we are going to initiate already.
Speaking during the launch of the report, Interior Cabinet Secretary Kipchumba Murkomen warned against the condemnation of the addicted students as authorities vowed to hunt down peddlers and suppliers fueling the menace.
The idea that you expel a student because they are addicted may have to be revisited. Because I have now grown up and I've been told that addiction is a disease like any other disease. Instead of expelling them, you have to find ways of making sure that they are treated.
We want to enhance the capability of the anti-narcotics drugs unit to the levels of the anti-terror police unit, because we believe that some of the proceeds from these drugs also go to finance terrorism.
While acknowledging the disturbing trends as a result of drug and substance abuse among university students in the country, the government says it has resorted to counseling rather than expelling the university students involved, even as it sends a warning to drug peddlers in the country that the war on drugs will persist. Reporting for KBC Channel 1 from Bomas in Nairobi, my name is Joseph Wahungu.
Thank you, Joseph Wahungu, for that report. Stakeholders in the media industry have expressed concerns over the spread of misinformation in climate reporting, citing lack of specialized training in climate science among journalists. Players in the sector cite the sad state of affairs to misrepresentation of fact or the oversimplification of complex environmental issues. Speaking in Nairobi at the commemoration of the World Radio Day, the Principal Secretary in the State Department for Broadcasting and Telecommunication, Professor Edward Kisiangani, emphasized the need for dedicated training programs to equip journalists with the necessary tools for accurate climate reporting.
Invented in the early 19th century, radio remains one of the most powerful tools for communication.
I've been crying the whole night through.
its accessibility and ability to broadcast in local languages make it an essential platform for raising awareness about climate change. However, stakeholders in the media note that despite radio's vast reach, it has not always been fully utilized to address the complex environmental challenges.
We've quickly moved with technology. We have tried to reduce the power of research, and rarely the call to action, the strategic and deliberate mobilization of people to conserve the environment.
My name is Catherine Donye, always glad to host you on this show that has been your companion every evening for decades now.
One of the biggest challenges in climate reporting is the spread of misinformation. To address the challenges, media houses are being encouraged to introduce climate literacy programs.
There could be a few who already have the capacity. But every time we're getting new people, new entrants, we must invest in this area. So that when they talk about soil erosion, they talk about bad fertilizer, which is spoiling our soil. They have knowledge.
With the accessibility of radio, there has also been a call for better monitoring and regulation of radio frequencies to ensure they are used to educate, unite and inform rather than divide and mislead.
Radio should be used for the public good, not for advancing personal, political or commercial interests at the expense of truth and national unity. Inasmuch as we uphold freedom of expression, we must ensure responsible broadcasting, particularly on sensitive issues such as climate change, governance, and public policy.
I've been crying the whole night through. This morning.
This year's celebration was under the theme Radio and Climate Change. Jacqueline Masharia for Prime Edition.
I'm still crying, teardrops over you.
And calls to amplify voices for climate action took center stage during this year's World Radio Day celebrations at the Kenya Broadcasting Corporation headquarters. Led by Managing Director Agnes Kaleche, the national broadcasters' 13 radio stations joined the global community in marking the day under the theme Radio and Climate Change. Frederick Parasayo reports.
The energy here is a culmination of week-long activities at KBC, all leading up to today's grand celebration of World Radio Day 2025. KBC's management and radio staff, led by Managing Director Agnes Kaleche, took the opportunity to reaffirm radio's role in driving climate conversations. The event provided a platform for discussions aligned with this year's theme, Radio and Climate Change.
Let's commit to using our platform to make real change, to address the effects of climate change. One broadcast, one story at a time.
Other than just selling land, other than just building houses, embrace environmental conservation. Plant trees in those estates.
Tuendelee kuhamasisha watu. Kuwaonyesha mwelekeo namna ya kuweka mazingira yetu sawa. Kama shirika la wanyama wa pori, mwaka jana peke yake tumeotesha miti ama tumepanda miti. We have planted trees. 22.5 million trees.
But the celebrations weren't confined to the headquarters alone. In Kawangware, Dagoretti North, Nairobi County, radio fans got a rare chance to meet their favorite presenters during an exciting meet and greet tour. From dance competitions to prizes and giveaways, listeners also had a platform to share feedback on KBC's radio programming.
Our common mandate is to inform, entertain, and educate. Of course, the only way we can do this is emotionally connecting with them, coming on ground, have such activities again, connecting communities.
Watangazaji ambao nimekutana nao wajaribu pia kusikiza maoni ya wananchi kiasi, wakati wananchi wanashauriana nao, pia wanawapea wakati ili wasiti kuimarika kabisa.
Ningependa tukifungulia tu kwa wakati kuna ball, KBC kwetu inatangaza hizo balls zote, ifuatililie zote.
At KBC's Mombasa bureau, staff members marked the occasion in style, mirroring the excitement at the headquarters. Public Service County Executive Committee member Kenneth Mbani lauded KBC's journey from the Voice of Kenya to today's diverse network of 13 radio stations, noting radio's continued impact in shaping public discourse.
Ikiwa bado mambo yanafanywa kizamani na mpaka sasa mambo yamekuwa digital na radio bado inaendelea. Umuhimu tu wa radio na umuhimu wa kuambizana kupitia radio.
Recognized by the United Nations General Assembly in 2012, World Radio Day remains a global platform to celebrate radio's evolution and influence in society. Parsai Frederick, Prime Edition.
And you can always count on KBC for balanced news coverage. Political leaders, veterans, sportsmen and women heroes and heroines are appealing to the government to set aside Uhuru Gardens as a burial site for the country's heroes and heroines. They spoke during a visit to the home of the legendary broadcaster, the late Leonard Mbotela.
The late Leonard Mbotela will forever be remembered as a national treasure following his tremendous contribution to the growth of the Kenyan media industry. On Thursday, political leaders, veterans, sportsmen and women, heroes and heroines visited his family in a show of solidarity during the difficult time.
The government has tried its best to recognize former sportsmen and those who are associated with sports. I vividly remember that some time back, Leonard Mbotela is one of those who are recognized as heroes in this country. And even by the time of his death, he was still serving on the National Heroes Council.
Mbotela, I knew him when he was in Voice of Kenya, VOK, when he was having a program which says, "Che huyu ni ungwana."
They appeal to the government to consider allocating a special burial site for Kenya's heroes and heroines.
The government can find a place for future, it might not be that, but for future mashujas to be remembered and to maybe a museum, a special museum.
The protocol should be, let's have the government make a decision so that not only for the case of Mambo, but for the futuristic purpose of having a determinant place, that will be a very positive thing.
We learn every day. Nimeona hiyo lack of recognition, hii ya cemetery is a good suggestion. Tutaona vile we can, everything has to be taken to parliament, ndio iwe implemented.
Mbotela, renowned for his Je Huni Ungwana program, was also a football commentator and remained active serving in the National Heroes Council board until his demise last Friday at the age of 84.
Leonard Mbotela alikuwa anatangaza mpira hata kama hujaenda kwa kiwanja, ni kama unasikia akitangaza mpira na unafeel kama wewe mwenyewe uko kwa kiwanja.
The council will be thinking up of partnering with National Museums of Kenya and maybe also partner with Kenya Broadcasting Corporation and any like-minded institutions to come up with an exhibition at the National Museums of Kenya, which will put some good memories for the works under which Leonard Mambo has done.
On Thursday, members of the National Assembly dedicated part of the afternoon sitting to pay tribute to the late journalist.
The demise of people like Mbotela tell us something about our country. Is there something that has been written about this man?
A funeral service will be held on Friday at the All Saints Cathedral, and he'll be laid to rest on Saturday at Langata Cemetery in Nairobi County.
Fare thee well, Mr. Leo. You're watching the Prime Edition live from our national headquarters here in Nairobi. We are taking a short break and thereafter we'll be back with more stories. Stay right here.
kuna Probox kwa star 570 hash. Cheza sasa hivi, jipatie entry ticket ya kuingia kwenye draw ya kujishindia gari hili, ikiwa ni star 570 hash option 2, 3 na 4, au ingia kwa www.tushinde.com, register, deposit na ucheze. Wewe ikawa ni yako. Cheza wakati wowote na ucheze mara kadhaa ili kujaza entry ticket zako kwenye draw ya ushindi. Inuka na Loto Moto.
Welcome back. National Assembly Speaker Moses Wetangula has dismissed claims that Parliament has sponsored 100 members of Parliament to Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, for the African Union Commission chairmanship elections. Acknowledging there has been a barrage from the trip, Wetangula went ahead to clarify that there is only 4-member delegation that, following a request from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, is being sponsored by the Parliament in solidarity with the Kenyan candidate.
Belgut Member of Parliament Nelson Koech, his counterparts Lydia Haika, Major Retired Bashir Sheikh and Millie Odhiambo are the only members of Parliament in Ethiopia, courtesy of the taxpayer. The MPs are drawn from the Foreign Relations and Diaspora Affairs Committee. Wetangula also clarified that 40 members have notified him that they will travel to Addis Ababa in their private capacities as citizens and leaders and would be self-sponsored.
For clarity, these members will be traveling in their private capacities as citizens and leaders, and therefore will be self-sponsored. Honorable members, I say so because you have seen the usual barrage against Parliament, that Parliament has sent 100 members to Addis Ababa. We can very well even all go if we can be able to sponsor ourselves. But Parliament doesn't have the resources to sponsor 100 members.
Finally, senators have raised an alarm over what they termed as worsening state of healthcare in counties, vowing to launch extensive probes into deteriorating hospital conditions, mismanagement of funds, and failure to implement collective bargaining agreements for medical workers.
Why is the national government continuing with, unconstitutional agreements where they are forcing county governments like Tana River county governments to pay for services and equipment that we are not benefiting from? Mr. Speaker, these equipment, they have broken down, but the county government is still being forced to pay.
Njuga swala hili. Tutembee katika kaunti hizi na tuwataje kwa majina na kuwaeleza kinagaubaga kabamnasi ya umma wale ambao kwa sasa wako katika nchi za ng'ambo, wanafanya utafiti na kuzuru miradi ya ng'ambo, ili hali kwao nyumbani ni aibu tele na haitupi sisi moyo kwamba wao ni magavana.
He referred as a national disaster. And I think as senators we should come up with a law where if you are elected as a governor, if you are elected as a president of this country, you should not be allowed to go out of the country to seek for medical services and treatment.
The lawmakers who are reacting to a statement sought by Mombasa Senator Mohamed Faki, who painted a grim picture of healthcare services in his county, decried the persistent shortage of essential drugs, lack of medical personnel, and deteriorating hospital infrastructure attributed to poor county management.
Ni masikitiko Mheshimiwa Spika kwamba baada ya muda wa miaka miwili tu ya serikali iliyoko, huduma zimedorora kuliko ilivyokuwa hapo awali. Hakuna pesa zozote za serikali ya kaunti inatoa kwa vituo vya afya ili kuboresha huduma kwa wananchi.
For Prime Edition, I'm Gladys Mungai.
On climate financing, where civil society organizations and stakeholders in the environment and climate change sector have been challenged to engage in capacity building initiatives for local communities to ensure they tap into available funding mechanisms and effectively implement climate resilience projects. Devolution Principal Secretary Teresia Mbaika says climate financing remains a major challenge in the country, which calls for the urgent need to mobilize local resources to spearhead local climate-friendly initiatives.
According to Kenya Climate Change Working Group Chairman John Kioli, Africa requires at least $277 billion by the year 2030 to effectively respond to climate change.
It is estimated that Africa needs about $277 billion annually by 2030 to effectively respond to climate change. This is the narrative that is there. Yet commitments made remain far below this figure. As Kenya and Africa at large continue to bear the brunt of climate change, we must critically assess the outcome of COP29.
The stretched climate-related resources, particularly in Kenya, has further inhibited the effective implementation of climate-related projects. It is against this backdrop that Devolution Principal Secretary Teresia Mbaika has challenged civil society organizations to delve into capacity building programs for local communities, especially in the hardest hit regions.
This requires CSOs to actively engage with global platforms, amplify the voices of affected communities, and hold developed nations accountable to their climate finance pledges. Without adequate funding, adaptation and mitigation efforts will be significantly hampered.
The PAS further stressed on the need to leverage on and harness the locally available resources to fund the diverse climate-related programs in a bid to achieve recommendations of the 29th Conference of Parties COP29 in Azerbaijan. Environment and climate change enthusiasts present emphasized the need of integrating gender equality and social inclusion into climate mitigation efforts to address the adverse impacts of climate change on vulnerable groups in the society.
Empowering women unlocks a reservoir for innovation, entrepreneurship, and community resilience, while investing in youth capacity building equips the next generation with the skills, knowledge, and motivation to drive climate solutions.
They spoke during the National Civil Society Organization's post-COP29 reflection workshop in Nairobi.
So now to get into the world of business, where it's a reprieve for salaried Kenyans, as the National Treasury is assuring that there will be no tax increases to the imposed to fund this year's proposed 4.2 trillion shillings budget. National Treasury Cabinet Secretary John Mbadi says the payslip deductions that were effected for the Social Health Insurance Fund and the National Housing Levy have led to a more structured system.
Treasury was out to address issues affecting Kenya's economic policies, reporting that there are no further tax increases on employment income planned because the economy is stabilizing.
At the end of 2024, ladies and gentlemen, through the tax laws amendments, the government systematically set in place measures to ease off the burden on the payslip.
It's something we continue to see. In fact, this year we have just started very well, and we have seen KRA perform well in terms of meeting its targets. And right now, the macroeconomic environment is stable.
So when we focus on lowering the cost of living, the question we ask ourselves then, what is it then? What are the interventions? What are the activities and programs that we need to have so that we can lower the cost of living?
According to the Treasury, an individual earning 100,000 shillings previously contributed 2,750 shillings to Social Health Insurance Fund. But under the new system, this has decreased to approximately 1,925 shillings, after accounting for the former NHIF contribution of 1,700 shillings. The net additional deduction is now 225 shillings.
Contribution to housing levy, contribution to SHA are now allowable for tax purposes. So you don't double tax those amounts. you are saving basically what you were contributing before to those two institutions is saving you at least about 30% for those who are earning salaries of about 38,000 and above.
But he says that the interventions were not final, adding that more measures will be put in place to cushion Kenyans. The 2025-2026 finance bill is currently undergoing public participation.
What is not a must is to have a finance bill with increased rates of taxation. So no one says that that finance bill must always have increase in our taxes. It can have a decrease, it can remain the same, but we will have to produce a finance bill.
Alan Auko, Prime Edition.
On to agriculture matters, where sugarcane farmers will pocket 300 shillings more per tonne following a decision by the government to set the minimum price at 5,300 shillings per tonne. This is according to Agriculture Principal Secretary Dr. Kiprono Rono, who says the decision to revise up sugarcane prices has been communicated to millers. The decision was reached during the 4th Interim Sugarcane Pricing Committee meeting that analysed prevailing market conditions. The increase in minimum sugarcane prices from 5,000 to 5,300 shillings per tonne, which was effected on Monday this week, represent a 6% improvement in farmers' earnings. The next review of sugarcane prices is scheduled for May this year. The new pricing structure is expected to benefit 250,000 sugarcane farmers in the country. Commercial banks should rely on credit scores and artificial intelligence to assess borrowers' creditworthiness and price risk more accurately. The chairperson of the President's Council of Economic Advisers, David Ndii, says the credit reference bureaus offer detailed insights into borrowers' credit histories and repayment patterns, which would enable banks to make more informed lending decisions.
A Central Bank of Kenya survey revealed that the shift to risk-based pricing by banks has led to a reduced appetite for new loans, contributing to a rise in non-performing loans. Risk-based pricing is a lending model that enables banks to charge interest rates depending on a borrower's credit profile. The chairperson of the President's Council of Economic Advisers, David Ndii, says financial institutions should leverage credit scoring systems to assess borrowers' risk more effectively and adjust interest rates accordingly.
Unique position as a country at our level of development that we are all in the digital financial space. Most of us now are doing our payments and all sorts of things on digital platforms. That means that all our financial transactions are potentially observable digitally, and those transactions, that data can be processed and give better credit and risk pricing metrics.
We have a database of 23 million borrowers, where each of those borrowers have a credit score. So if you have ever borrowed money from a SACCO, from a digital credit provider, from a bank, we have your credit score. And it is that credit score that we are giving the bank to use to determine your interest rate. Now, that for the 23 million Kenyans, about 70% have a good credit score.
He says some financial institutions still rely heavily on collateral such as land, cars or buildings rather than evaluating an applicant's repayment behavior. This approach disadvantages small business owners, startups, and young professionals who may lack significant assets but have strong repayment histories.
The concept of collateral is very different from the concept of securitization. And the securitization of receivables, for instance, has allowed this DCP to unlock lending to merchants, to small retailers who have partnerships with the PSP, with the payment service provider, that out of this daily sales, the merchants are able to restock from funding that comes from a large bank channeled through a DCP. Can you imagine the joy of this market becoming an advanced market where we are securitizing at different levels in the value chain?
Ndii hinted at the upcoming launch of an insurance-based product under the Hustler Fund, noting that the fund is not a credit scheme but a development financial institution aimed at addressing market failures.
The objective is actually to harness all this information and make credit history a public good that financial institutions can tap to and be able to tell, or at least we are giving every Kenyan who's participating in the Hustler Fund a credit score.
He warned that those who fail to repay their loans will have poor credit scores, potentially limiting their future access to credit. Weri Mujenga for Prime Edition.
You're watching the Prime Edition, and of course we're taking a short break, and thereafter we'll be back with more stories.
Here we go.
Cheer your favorite team and win big on MeChezobet.com. Casino, Aviator, and other crash games also available at MeChezobet. Sign up today. This message has been approved by BCLB license number 664. Gambling can be addictive. Play responsibly. Terms and conditions apply.
From the bliss of new beginnings to the trials of commitment, this is a celebration of resilience, passion, and the power of togetherness. Join us as we unravel real-life stories, because every journey deserves to be cherished, for better, for worse, on KBC Channel 1.
A decision on a legal dispute between Ata Kenya Limited and grain bulk handlers involving the selling of a consignment stored in silos is set to be delivered in April this year. Dr. Mukami with more details.
We want to be specific.
The matter that has been before the High Court in Mombasa saw Ata Kenya Limited embroiled in a court case over the auctioning of its wheat that was stored by grain bulk handlers and later auctioned for failure to pay storage and custom charges to the Kenya Revenue Authority in 2017. Ata Kenya Limited is seeking to be compensated 750 million shillings. The matter involves a transaction that was done in 2014. Ata Kenya Limited argues that the consignment was sold at 217.48 million shillings, which was way below its market value. Ata also says the sale of the disputed wheat was done in bad faith and against the laid auction procedures. During a virtual court session, Mombasa High Court Judge Florence Macharia said she will deliver a ruling on the matter on 3rd April 2025. Ndota Mukami for Prime Edition.
In capital markets, players are working with policymakers and the private sector on diversifying investment options for expanding the commodities and derivative markets, with a focus on including for trading precious metals, energy and agricultural produce such as tea, coffee and maize. Nairobi Securities Exchange CEO Frank Mwiti says moving beyond equities will stimulate trading activities and offer significant value, especially for retail investors.
Activity at the Nairobi Securities Exchange is dominated by trading of shares with the Safaricom and the banking sector on most days, accounting for about 70% of trading. capital market players believe activity at the bourse could be stimulated if the commodities and derivatives markets are deepened.
We are at the beginning of a new strategic planning cycle, and we are intending to use this to revitalize and leverage on innovation and also enhance market access.
However, awareness among the public remains low, which has prompted government and private sector to moot plans to closely work together on educational campaigns to raise awareness about commodities and derivatives trading.
I hope that this conference will spark new ideas, foster impactful collaborations, and inspire actionable solutions that will accelerate the growth of these markets. Moreover, I believe that these discussions and engagement in this conference will chart a clear roadmap of addressing legacy challenges such as market liquidity, regulatory frameworks, and investor education critical to the accelerated development of these markets.
Among the agricultural produce targeted for the commodities market are tea, coffee, and maize. Frederick Muki for Prime Edition.
From the trading floor to the threshing floor, there is a need to increase agri-tech funding in order to scale agriculture startups, especially those targeting small-scale farmers. This comes as the Consultative Group on Internal Agricultural Research through the International Livestock and Research Organization said it will set up a regional hub that will incubate and scale up innovations to increase agricultural production. Technology adoption through the hub will benefit 62 million people in the East Africa and Southern Africa region through enhanced diet and livelihood.
A research by Mozilla Corporation and African Union Development Agency shows that 30% of activities in the startup ecosystem is concentrated in the fintech space. This is more than agri-tech, e-health and e-commerce combined. Players in the sector say there is need for more funding and scaling up of all agriculture startups to show up activities and provide suitable solutions to farmers.
We need investment into scaling. A lot of investment goes into upstream research and things like that, but often very little is there to do the last mile.
The Consultative Group on International Agricultural Research has opened a new regional hub that will scale agriculture-based solutions.
Ensure that this hub becomes a vibrant, impactful space where partnerships thrive, solutions emerge, and scaling is no longer an afterthought but a core component of everything that we do.
The hub will serve the East and Southern Africa region to consolidate all research and innovation in the region for actualization and scaling up.
We could bring CGIAR and many of our partners, agribusinesses, farmer cooperatives, government, national universities and other research institutions together to co-create lasting, sustainable innovation.
The hub will mainly target research on innovation in market linkage, financial inclusion and seed systems.
There are so many different important things that this scale is going to help, whether it's seeds bringing to the farmers, whether solutions of how farmers do better farming, whether it's nutritious, dense crops that will help with the diets of the farmers. A lot of things, and not only the farmers, but the population and the people of Africa.
Benson Rioba reporting for Prime Edition.
Let's turn to magical scenes where Shanzu Beach stands as a breathtaking testament to nature's creativity owing to its magical sands, Indian Ocean waters and swaying palm trees, making it an idyllic destination for beach lovers and adventure seekers. Tonight on Magical Scenes, we dive into the beauty of Shanzu Beach in Mombasa County.
Welcome to Shanzu Beach.
The magical of Shanzu. In a significant move aimed at downsizing the U.S. government workforce, The Trump administration has announced plans to close entries to program designed to reduce employee numbers through incentivized resignations. The program, which offers workers 8 months of pay upon voluntary resignation, is set to proceed following a court ruling allowing its implementation. Here are the details of these and other stories making headlines across the globe.
The announcement to downsize the workforce marks the next phase in the Trump administration's broader efforts to streamline federal operations and cut costs. Elon Musk and the Department of Government Efficiency aims to reduce the number of federal employees by offering voluntary resignations with 8 months of pay. The program, greenlit by a U.S. court ruling, excludes military personnel, postal workers, and national security officials. While some see it as a cost-cutting strategy, critics argue it threatens job stability within the federal system. Meanwhile, Japan's automotive giants Honda and Nissan have scrapped merger talks but reaffirmed their commitment to collaborate on electric vehicles. The decision highlights the shifting dynamics in the global auto industry as companies race to stay competitive, particularly against rising Chinese manufacturers. Had the merger gone through, the alliance alongside Mitsubishi could have rivaled industry leaders like Toyota, Volkswagen, General Motors and Ford. Finally, Barclays Bank has said it made £8.1 billion profit in 2024, representing a growth of 24%. To boost investor confidence, the lender is launching a £1 billion share buyback. The bank is cutting costs by £2 billion, focusing on consumer lending and absorbing Tesco's retail banking. With HSBC exiting key markets, Barclays sees room to expand. However, a recent tech outage and lower interest rates may affect profits, while UK regulators push for more banking competition.
Let's now have a look at the money market report, where Safaricom accounted for 52% of the total turnover at the Nairobi Securities Exchange on the day that Telco announced that it will pay 55 cents per share in interim dividends on 31st of next month. The NSE 20-share index edged up 10.81 points to 2,202.92, as Benson Rioba narrates.
Safaricom, which announced its half-year profit to end of September 2024, had dropped by 17.7% to 28.1 billion shillings, says it intends to pay an interim dividend of 55 cents per share at the tail end of next month. The telecom share is sold between 17 shillings and 5 cents and a high of 18 shillings and 30 cents on a volume of 10.27 million shares. The telecom shares closed for trading at 17 shillings and 5 cents, accounting for 52% of the day's total turnover. The banking counter moved transactions worth 82 million shillings, representing 23% of the day's traded value. 5 banks had their share price increase, 3 lenders maintained their prices, while 4 had their prices decrease. East African Cables reversed 2 consecutive days of share shedding on Monday and Tuesday to lead the pack of firms whose shares registered price increases. On the other hand, Home Africa, for the third day in a row, was among stocks whose prices headed south. The other companies that saw their share prices decrease were Uchumi, Unga, TP Serena, and Everready. Bonds worth 9 billion were transacted in 150 deals. The market capitalization edged up 7.29% to 2.08 trillion shillings in January 2025, up from 1.94 trillion shillings in December 2024. Benson Rioba reporting for Prime Edition.
Over now to the counties, where the Kenya Association of Private Universities is appealing to the government to settle a long-standing debt of 50 billion shillings accumulated since 2015 for government-sponsored students placed in 34 private universities. Details of these and more stories making headlines in our counties.
Professor Reverend Stephen Gary says private universities are feeling the weight of unpaid school fees.
Our institutions not only contribute to the educational advancement of thousands, but also actively participate in initiatives that foster innovation and entrepreneurship. By doing so, we contribute to job creation in various sectors of the economy, helping to reduce youth unemployment, which is a pressing issue that affects our national progress.
Meanwhile, the Council of Governors has renewed its battle with the national government over the ongoing construction of affordable houses and tens of markets.
The objectives of the meeting were to appraise chairs of the COG committees of the actionable policy and legal issues in devolved sectors, collectively reaffirm renewed commitment to devolution, and discuss urgent and long-term solutions that will improve resourcing for county governments and strengthen intergovernmental relations.
Elsewhere, former Nairobi County Governor Mike Sonko has urged the political leaders and stakeholders to prioritize youth empowerment as a strategy to reduce crime in the capital city.
Bunduki kwa mikono ya vijana zaidi ya 50. Na tukiwanyang'anya vijana bunduki, tulikuwa tunawapea mradi ya kufanya. Tunawashikanisha vijana 10, tunawanunulia car wash machine, water tank, pepo ya wizi inapotea.
In Homa Bay County, a section of residents has challenged the county's ranking as the best in healthcare delivery by InfoTrack.
Nilisikia Homa Bay imekuwa namba 1 katika mambo ya hospitali ya mambo ya utabibu. Sasa kijambo ambaye anaweza kusema hiyo ni uongo. Sababu gani? Kujengwa imejengwa sawa, madaktari wako. Kuandika pia wanaandika madawa, lakini dawa yenyewe hakuna.
Umekataa hiyo report, waitupilie mbali, watafute mahali ama wakuje kwa ground ili wajue ni ukweli yupo wapi. Ndio watoe hiyo utafiti ya ukweli.
Meanwhile, the family of the late John Mburu, a former provincial commissioner, is locked in a fierce land dispute with a private developer of a 300-acre property in Githurai 44, Nairobi County.
Tunasikia ati shamba limeuziwa muhindi na shamba ni yetu. Mimi nimekuja pamoja na madada zangu kwa sababu shangazi yetu Ngami Kamerina Mburu ndiye alituachia shamba. Tunauliza, kwa nini tunyang'anywe haki yetu? Jameni, nchi yetu bona tunyang'anywe haki yetu.
Christine Matunda for Prime Edition.
Ya chapa bado iko na zawadi pia ni za kukuinua. Iko Probox new model moja ya kipekee tayari kukuserve kwa biashara yako ya 2025. Iko Master Demio, iko safi and sleek, ready kukuserve kwa mahitaji yako ya hapa na pale. Cheza mara kadhaa na uweze kujipatia entry tickets kibao na uboost chance yako ya kujishindia kwenye draw zetu. Na kama kawaida tutakubishia mahali popote ulipo tukufikishie ushindi wako. Kila kona imejazwa kwa star 570 hash option 2, 3 na 4 na tushinde.com na kwako ni kuinuka na Lotto Moto.
We don't need some test to prove that we're compatible.
Rachel Lee Cook and Brendan Penny propose a toast to love.
Welcome to our compatibility seminar. How do you want to spend Valentine's Day? A, relaxing at home. B, outdoors and active. Or C, going to a movie or a concert.
C. A. C. Oh. Valentine in the Vineyard.
Yeah, they're getting married someday. Okay.
Steal you away. Let's pretend you never leave. Tell me that you're here.
Welcome back to KBC Prime Edition. My name is Karen Kibet. Let's now take a look at the day's sports. The Kenya Under-20 soccer team, the Rising Stars, have been drawn in Pool C where they'll face Senegal, among other teams in the CAF Under-20 Africa Cup of Nations, scheduled to take place from the 26th of April to the 18th of May this year in Cote d'Ivoire. The Rising Stars, who will be making their first appearance at the tournament, will face defending champions Senegal, Zambia and Sierra Leone in Group C, following today's draw held in Cairo, Egypt. Nigeria, who finished third in the last first edition were drawn in Pool B with Egypt, South Africa and Morocco. Neighbors Tanzania were pooled together with the hosts Cote d'Ivoire, DR Congo and Ghana in Pool A. The fifth team in that group will be drawn from the UNI-FACC zone, but is still unknown following the suspension of Congo by the world governing football body FIFA. Kenya's rising star qualified for the CAF Under-20 Africa Cup of Nations when they finished second in the CECAFA qualifiers, won by Tanzania. Young sportsmen and women are set to benefit from a partnership program between the Ministry of Sports and the government of France aimed at enhancing sports infrastructure across the country, promoting sports development, nurturing talent and fostering social inclusion among youth, women and vulnerable groups.
The 60 million euros investment program will not only benefit Kenya with the infrastructure development but also talent exchange programs. Sports Cabinet Secretary Salim Mvurya hailed the formidable investments made by the French government in Iten Elgeyo Marakwet, spearheaded by the municipality of Miramas that has seen 12 athletics coaches selected to participate in a 6-week exchange program beginning next month. In addition, the French Development Agency, in collaboration with the National Basketball Association NBA, will host a basketball in wheelchair summit in Nairobi, which will bring together athletes, coaches and stakeholders from around the world to raise awareness, advocate for equal opportunities and promote inclusivity for athletes with disabilities.
The Kenya national rugby sevens team Shujaa will leave the country this Saturday for the Vancouver Sevens, which is the fourth leg of the HSBC World Sevens Series, slated from the 21st to the 23rd of this month in Canada. Shujaa finalized their training today at the RFUEA grounds in Nairobi, where head coach Kevin Wambua named the travelling squad that includes debutants John Kubu and Jackson Siketi.
Shujaa are heading to Canada this weekend for the fourth leg of the HSBC Sevens World Series, looking to end the Vancouver leg with a top 8 finish on the table.
I believe my teammates, we play the sport to have fun. We never forget the fun bit of the sport. That's why whenever we score, there's always time for each and everyone to celebrate. And plus the fans have been there to us, rallying with us anywhere we go. So they motivate us in the celebrations to perform.
Shujaa have been pulled in Group A of the Vancouver leg, where they will play Argentina in their opening game before facing France and Great Britain in the other pool matches. After the first 3 legs of the series, Kenya are 9th on the table with 14 points, and they aim to acquire more points in Vancouver in their quest to finish among the top 6 at the end of the season.
This is one team that I believe that can go far better because they are well skilled, they are well trained and they are well grounded. If they're able to do that, as long as they're here, they'll be able to see the success that they worked out so hard for at the end of their careers.
Samuel Asati and George Ooro will continue to co-captain the team that was named today, and which also include Kevin Wekesa, Vincent Onyala, Anthony Omondi, Brian Tanga and William Mwanji.
Sponsorship from M-Pesa has really helped us financially. You know, everyone plays the sport for the financial purposes. So when the finances are sorted, the mood in camp is calm and everyone is happy.
Fijian-born John Kubu and his Cabras teammate Jackson Siketi have also been included in the squad where they will make their debut.
The Football Kenya Federation FKF is reaffirming its dedication to elevating football officiating standards nationwide. As part of this effort, they held a 3-day physical endurance test for Division 1 referees at the Kipchoge Keino Stadium in Eldoret. The program aims to rigorously evaluate and improve the referees' physical fitness, ensuring they meet the high-performance standards required for officiating league matches. FKF President Hussein Mohamed highlighted the importance of the program, noting that officiating has been a significant challenge in the country's leagues.
This has been, of course, as a result of the Federation realizing that we have a very big gap in terms of the standards in officiating our games at our leagues. And I think such a process is important so that we're able to get the right quality of referees to manage our league games or to oversee our league games.
Liverpool captain Virgil van Dijk expressed his dissatisfaction after they were held to a 2-2 draw by Everton in a dramatic English Premier League match that saw 4 red cards being flashed as tempers flared in the last minute of the game at the Goodison Park. Norberto Beto went into the scoresheet final. And finally, Bayern Munich survived a Celtic scare to register a 2-1 victory in the UEFA Champions League playoff match at the Celtic Park. Michael Olise struck at halftime.
It's going to be a throw-in. No, it's not. There's no time for it. I have to say, that was a bit too easy, wasn't it, for Milan to get into those areas. Oh, it's in!
And that's all the sports stories we had for you tonight. My name is Karen Kibet. I'll see you tomorrow for Easy Friday. Don't go too far. Right after this short break, my colleague O'Brien Kimani will be back with more. Good night.
Here we go.
Cheer your favorite team and win big on MeChesobet.com. Casino, Aviator, and other crash games also available at MeChesobet. Sign up today. This message has been approved by BCLB license number 664. Gambling can be addictive. Play responsibly. Terms and conditions apply.
Ya Rasulallah, Ya Habiballah.
Saum imefaradhishiwa wote ambao ni waumini ili waweze kumcha Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
Ya Allah kwetu sisi kufunga mwezi mzima. Hizi ndizo funga somu za mtume ambao walitangulia kabla ya mtume, na pia na funga ya mtume sallallahu alaihi wasallam, na funga yetu sisi umati Muhammadin. Basi Mungu atujalie tupate mazuri ya somu.
Na sujudu mbele zako, naomba unisamehe.
Well, before we wrap it up, I mean, we've taken you through virtually everything. I mean, we've taken you through the world of politics, sports, business, and time now for us to wrap it up. But not before we take you through our interview of the day, because tonight we just want to discuss matters, technology in the housing industry. I mean, it's a big thing. The government is talking about building about 1 million units by the year 2027, and this is hinged on technology. And tonight, it will take you about 21 days to construct a 3-bedroomed house if you use insulated concrete from block technology. In addition, the technology will save you about 30% in cost when compared to building using conventional brick and mortar. Our reporter Alan Naoko had a candid discussion with on-site ICF East Africa Regional Director Kennedy Munyendo about how adoption of technology could help address the housing gap. And this is how the conversation went.
It's not a hidden secret that the country is undergoing a deficit of housing. Even as the government looks to fill this gap with a few milestones, we're looking at 200,000 units annually for 5 years to see if we can bridge that 2 million gap at this point. But what are some of the solutions that you can deploy to accelerate adoption and also have social impact on the ground in the lives of people who are owning these houses? To speak about this and more, we have a guest today. We have Kennedy Munyendo, correct?
Yes.
Who is the Regional Director for East Africa at On-Site ICF. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for
Maybe you can begin by telling us what this problem is and how you, from where you sit as a company, even as an individual, because we're also going to talk about social impact, how are we addressing this issue of affordable housing?
I think housing is a big challenge in Kenya and across the continent. It's a worldwide challenge. And so many people do not have houses. Like you've correctly put it, we have a shortage of more than 250 units. Combined government and private sector, we're only doing about 50,000 units a year. So we still have a deficit of 200,000 units that we need to build. If we put this into perspective, you look at the urban areas, you will realize that about 61% of the people living within the urban areas are living in slums. So you can imagine that percentage. Where do these people really live? In what conditions do these people really live? So that's what we are looking at. The challenge is very huge. And if you see the peri-urban and the rural areas often left out in this equation. If you look at the developments that are happening, they're happening in the cities. And these areas are not considered or not thought of most of the time. So that is the biggest challenge that we have. What we believe in as on-site ICF is that housing is a very key element in our society, and we have to make sure that each and every one of us lives in decent housing. So as on-site, we are putting our technology into use. So on-site ICF, we have the ICF system, which is a foam block made from polythene raw materials that we're using for wall construction. And this generally brings about cost savings, not only on the walls, but in the entire structure. So what we're doing with this is to use our technology to reduce the cost of construction, to make housing accessible to as many people as possible.
And that is something very interesting you bring about, because you find that this kind of technologies, integration into current construction techniques is not very common. We have to admit that we even had to change our building codes to accommodate some of these new technologies. We've had the new building code 2024 being launched in the country, and we are seeing some affordable housing projects also trying to integrate this kind of technologies. How then, from where you sit, can we accelerate adoption using even your kind of technology through the new building code? Is the implementation moving with par with the demand that we have in the country at this time?
I think I'm glad you brought that up, because the building code and the policies around construction have not been reviewed for a very long time, and we are glad that this was done in 2024. I believe it's supposed to be taking effect this March of 2025. This is a good step. It's a good step towards incorporating new technologies into our construction system. It's a good step toward making sure that we are building quality, durable structures. We are accommodating even people with disabilities in our structures, in the buildings that we build. So the building code, yes, it has been enacted, and we hope and believe that there is going to be enough sensitization, and this building code allows or creates opportunity for the new technologies to be adopted. What has happened in the past is that people have stuck to the old ways of building. We only know about brick and mortar. If it's not stone brick, then it's not a structure, it's not a building. But there are better ways of doing this, and the times have changed. Better things have come, new technology has come, and we need to put this into practice to be able to achieve our goal. They normally say if you keep doing the same thing and expect a different result, then you're lying to yourself. If we keep doing the same thing that we are doing today, we might never achieve the goal that we are looking to achieve with affordable housing. So recently, I think towards the end of 2024, I saw Borax together with Public Works announce that they're starting the process of reviewing new technologies so that they can adopt this into the building code and put this into practice. On-site ICF runs a robust system. This is a system that reduces significantly the cost of construction. This is a system that improves the space we live in. From thermal insulation, sound insulation, pest resistance and water resistance. These are some of the benefits you get with the ICF system. We call it the border block because it makes your house better, and that is what we are doing with our system. So yes, the building code has come at a good time, and we hope and believe that there is going to be enough sensitization. We hope and believe that a lot of implementing agencies have seen a couple of trainings going on with the NCA where they're trying to sensitize people about their building code. And we as an organization, and I would urge other private organizations as well to jump into this and sensitize people as much as possible, especially for those who are offering alternative technology for construction.
And perhaps for the benefit of our viewers, they're hearing about ICF technology, they've heard about other technologies, they've heard about prefab materials used in housing, but what is the difference between what you're talking about and the rest? And I know they'll be very happy to understand what do you mean, and how fast can I build my house with this technology? What is different with the normal brick and mortar? Maybe give us a few details about this building technology you are talking about.
So the on-site system, ICF, is basically concrete, insulated concrete form block. So the insulated concrete form block is made out of polyethylene raw materials. So this is a byproduct of a process. So the process of processing oil results into raw materials that we currently use for block making. So the ICF, these chemicals, raw materials are put into a molding system. Then the molding heats, and when it forms up, then it takes the shape of the mold. And in our system, we have different shapes. We have 100 millimeter by 1 meter, we have 150 millimeter by 1 meter, and then we have 200 millimeter by 1 meter. When we talk about the 200 millimeter, that is the thickness of the wall, 100 millimeter in 150. So these blocks are stuck together like a Lego. So in about 10 to 12 minutes, you're able to make a block, and you're running a number of molds at the same time. So a capacity of one mold can run about 800 blocks in 24 hours. And these are blocks that are ready to use. So as soon as they come out of the machine, you can use them for construction. So they will not undergo the curing process that your normal concrete or prefab would go through before you use it. So this is something that comes from the machine, and you can use it immediately. The beauty about this is that the building process with this system is very easy. You're familiar with the Lego, right? How the Lego goes together, one on top of each other, and interlocks. So you don't need even mortar in between. So it just interlocks on its own. And then we use what we call pole and beam structure, where the hollow section of the block, we put in rebar, steel rebar, and then we put in concrete where there is steel rebar. So this can be spaced depending on the kind of structure, what we are designing, what kind of building we are working with. And as on-site ICF, we have a design and build system where we design from layouts to structural designs, and we go straight into construction. So we provide a turnkey solution where at the end of the day, you just come in, tell us what you need, we design it for you, and we hand you over the key to the structure. The difference between this with the other system, one is how we make the block, which is a faster and efficient way of making the block, eliminating transportation of stones from quarries to sites. And we know these days quarries are very scarce, and we have to transport stones long distances. So this eliminates the whole process. The other aspect is that they are very light. So when you're building with this, then that means when you're designing your foundation, you're designing a less heavier foundation. So that results into cost savings in the foundation. You're saving cost on your reinforcement, you're saving cost on your concrete, and then when you come to the walling aspect, the speed in which you put together your wall, again, you're using probably half the labor, twice the speed, and you achieve higher quality structure at the end of the day. We will do plaster as normal, we will do our window fittings as normal, our internal fittings as normal, but at the end of the day, you're getting a superior product. If you look at concrete, I know many people say, oh, the weather in Kenya is good, we don't need, But the weather is only good. For example, if you go to Mombasa for a vacation, that weather is really good. But someone who lives in the coast every single day, those people run a lot of fun. Those people run a lot of ACs, yeah? And this is because of the heat in that area. The same with the northeastern area, the lake region, it's hot. And you need a product like this to ensure that you have a conducive environment. How big that difference is. So from experience, we save about 20 to 30%. In other areas, we would save even more, depending on the location, depending on soil conditions. There are few other variables that we would look at. But generally, at 20 to 30% is a significant saving in a construction.
And of course, in business, that saving, is it still able to cater for your needs as a company and get returns and make everyone happy, as well as the labor force and everything else, supply chain and everyone else?
So the beauty of working with on-site ICF is that we don't keep all that saving. That saving, we transfer it to the consumer. We transfer it to our customer. So that saving will actually be the builder's saving. The person who is owning the house is the one who is going to realize this saving. By the time we are saving you 20 to 30%, we've actually put in our margin. And as a social enterprise, we just look to operate and be able to scale and be able to deliver as many houses as possible. So we've already considered our margins in that particular building, but we're still saving you a lot more.
You are making a business case for innovators in this space. You've talked about how innovation in this space can help in bridging the housing gap. You've talked about how interoperable the system is, the technology is with the new building codes. You've talked about how different technologies, and especially even yours, is increasing the rate of uptake. Yes. Perhaps maybe, since we are not in isolation, talk to us about how are you getting these materials? Is it locally sourced? And if not, what are some of those implications that probably even if it's legislation you'd like to see eased or made easier for you to get materials into the country to make this a reality for people on the ground?
So part of this is imported as raw material. Then we do the production locally. The beauty about this again is that we can make blocks on site. So we have our office and workshop at Samia Africa in Nairobi. We have another office in Kisumu, and we've recently incorporated in Uganda. So generally what we use as raw material is imported, and once we import that, then we fabricate and make our blocks locally, and we can do this on site. In terms of policy and regulations, I think recently in the last 1 year there has been introduction of some levies on these raw materials. There's some that were zero rated, went to 10%, and this I think affects everyone else who is importing in one way or the other. There's some levies that were introduced that would affect that, and if this would come down, if the levies would be reduced or zero rated, then this would significantly reduce the cost of construction. And this is in many materials that are being imported for construction. We know that, yes, we want to consume locally, we want to manufacture locally, but not everything else can be manufactured or consumed locally. There's some elements of the construction, there's some elements in the construction industry that must be imported. So in that case, if there are any benefit tax reliefs that can be accorded to this, then it would generally help reduce cost of construction. There are people who are doing different things, steel, cabinetries, other elements of a house that have to be imported, or raw materials have to be imported.
So what I'm hearing here is that we could do better when it comes to making it easier for innovators to bring in material and, make affordable housing even more affordable. Perhaps maybe you could talk to us, even as we look at how levies and taxes affect this kind of business model. What kind of partnerships do you leverage as innovators in this space? Do you leverage on to make sure that you also still get the equity you deserve on the ground and have that social impact, but still build quality durable houses on the ground? Which partnerships are you leveraging on? Which ones do you have now? Which ones are you looking at in the near future, maybe 4 or 5 years? Talk to us about that.
Okay. I think in terms of delivering quality house, we have to make sure that we are not compromising on the products we are using. As much as we are saying alternative material would be good to reduce the cost of construction, we have to be very keen and make sure that we're not compromising on the materials that we're using. That would be the first step. The other thing is that the cost reduction in construction is not necessarily using one item or just changing the material you're using. It includes a lot of things. One is the alternative materials, and in this case, I would highly recommend the use of on-site ICF's border block, which is a very good solution for this. We are now introducing fiberglass rebar to replace your normal rebar. It has been shown that the fiberglass rebar is 30% cheaper. It's stronger in terms of compression strength, and it can highly reduce the cost of construction compared to steel rebar. We are looking at partnerships, like you're saying, in construction. And we all know that if you buy in bulk, if you have specialized pricing for materials, then you're able to reduce significantly the cost of a house. In our case, as on-site, we've gone into different partnerships. We have partnerships with paint companies. We have partnership with cement suppliers. We have partnership with steel suppliers. So in that case, then we have some sort of regulation in terms of the prices we get for the material that we use. The other aspect is efficiency in implementation. You have to properly plan, you have to properly execute, you have to make sure that each and every aspect of that structure is well thought before you go into implementation. So these are small things that many times we assume, but at the end of the day, this leads into cost reduction, and this is what will make your house affordable.
It's very interesting you talk about these partnerships and the whole ecosystem, but you are in a very competitive space. We've seen some of your competitors doing 3D houses on site. We've seen some of them build sustainable housing using raw materials such as just timber, and they make a complete, even 2-story house with timber and everything. How are people like yourselves leveraging on this kind of competitive edge, to, drive growth and interest? Because many Kenyans, even viewers, will tell you that, how do we even get these people? Where are they? The one we know is the mainstream one, which is brick and mortar, but the innovators are quiet in the back. Why? Why are you not talking about this new technology going forward?
I'm glad that you brought up, and it's good that we are here now, because this is one way of communicating what we are doing and what we are looking to do in future. I will tell you that one, we have got partnerships with different organizations. We work with NGOs for social housing. We work with funders. We work with grant funders, and we also work with individuals in terms of house delivery. We have done training in different capacities for contractors, for skilled labor, and people within that space. We recently did our inaugural IIX Insights Exchange Forum, where industry players came together, and some of these are technology industry players, people who were introducing new technology in construction. And this is where we discuss, we brainstorm, and we believe that this will open up as we go into the next IIX Forum, and this will incorporate more and more people. So we have NGOs, we have social enterprises, we have limited companies who are playing within this space. So that is another aspect. We have participated in different exhibitions and shows, the AAK Forum, we have participated in the Big Five, we have participated in Kenya Homes Expo, and these are some of the forums where we meet with our customers, we discuss with them. But then we are also available for any discussion around affordable housing, any discussion around technology, any discussion around reducing the gap in the housing shortage. Of importance for us is the impact aspect of it, and what we are looking at is playing within the impact space. So you're asking how are we competing with the other people? I think as it is today, you cannot point out and say this is the affordable housing leader in the industry. You cannot point out and say that this is the person who is leading in social housing. You cannot point out and say this is the person who built the most school. As it is, probably, I don't know the statistic on that, but I would say we built a lot of schools. And this is where we need this. So our system works across board. We can build for social enterprise, we can build for commercial spaces, we can build for schools, and we can build for individuals. If you want a social house, our system is the best for that.
Wow. On-site ICF East Africa Regional Director, Kennedy Munyendo. Thank you very much for speaking to us and making time for us to speak about technology in housing. Now there's no excuse, and you know that the technology is there, not only brick and mortar. You can be innovative, make your own house in the rural area or in the city using sustainable materials. That's it from us for this time. Goodbye for now.
Academia iko kwa star 570 hash. Cheza sahihi ikiwa ni option 2, 3 na 4. Ama pia unaweza cheza kwa tushinde.com. Register, deposit na ucheze. Cheza wakati wowote na ucheze mara kadhaa ili kujaza entry ticket zako kwenye draw ya ushindi. Inuka na Loto Moto.
Leo ndo nimeamini kwa kweli unanipenda.
Sasa hiyo ndio kusema nini sasa?
Relax and be educated.
Exactly.